Imagine standing on a desolate mountain peak. A massive, shadow-wreathed genie is looming over you, preparing to end your life. You have exactly one play left. Tell a story so compelling, this ancient spirit decides you are worth keeping alive. So you start with a parable. You describe two neighbors. One is an ordinary man consumed by deep, unprovoked hatred. The other is a dervish, a peaceful man who voluntarily moves to a new city, simply to avoid causing his neighbor any further irritation. But proximity was never the issue. The angry neighbor tracks the dervish in his new monastery, lures him to the edge of an old courtyard well, and shoves him into the darkness. The dervish should have died on impact. Instead, he lands safely, caught by unseen fairies who live in the well. From the shadows, he overhears them gossiping about a demonic possession afflicting the sultan's daughter. Better yet, they drop the exact recipe to cure her. Burn 3 white hairs plucked from the tail of a black cat and bathe her in the smoke. The next morning, the dervish climbs out, plucks the hairs from the cat, and cures the princess. The sultan is so grateful he marries his daughter to the dervish. When the ruler eventually dies without a male heir, the dervish inherits the entire empire. Now armed with absolute royal power, the new sultan spots his former neighbor, the man who tried to murder him, in a crowd. He doesn't order an execution. He hands the man 1,000 pieces of gold, 20 wagons of goods, and an armed escort to ensure he gets home safely. You look up at the towering genie and make your point. If a mortal man can choose to break a cycle of blood with an act of radical kindness, an eternal spirit can surely find the capacity to forgive a simple trespass. The genie is completely unimpressed. He grabs you by the arm, flies you across the world, and hurls enchanted earth into your face. In a flash, magic violently tears through your human biology, warping you into the hunched, terrified form of an ape. You flee down the mountain, row a branch out to a merchant ship, and beg the captain for protection from superstitious sailors who want to kill you for bad luck. 50 days later, you arrive in a massive capital city, a beast trapped in the center of human civilization. When royal officials board your ship looking for someone to replace the sultan's late calligrapher, you snatch the paper from their hands. To their absolute shock, you take up the pen and begin to write with a precision that makes the human merchants look like amateurs. You demonstrate mastery over all 6 traditional forms of Arabic script. You even compose original poetry in each style, leaving the sultan's court speechless at the sheer technical perfection of your work. Brought to the palace, you continue to prove your intellect. The sultan sets up a board, and you engage him in a calculated, deeply strategic game of chess. He takes the first round, but you win the second and the third. The sultan is so amazed he calls his daughter to see his new pet. But the moment she enters, she covers her face. She spent her childhood learning 70 rules of magic from her nurse, and she can see right through the disguise. She tells her father that you are not an animal, but a cursed prince. Malice can alter a body's biology, but human identity is resilient. Expressed through high art, intellectual strategy, and the sharp perception of those trained in the unseen, your mind survives the curse intact. The princess promises her father she can break the spell. She leads you to a secret courtyard, traces a massive protective circle on the ground, and chants from the Quran. The air turns dark, the earth trembles, and the genie violently manifests inside the courtyard as a colossal lion. The beast opens its jaws to swallow her, but the princess is already moving. She plucks a hair from the lion's own mane, murmurs an incantation, and the hair becomes a sword. With one clean strike, she cleaves the massive lion in 2. The pieces vanish, leaving only the lion's head, which instantly morphs into a scorpion. The princess drops the sword and becomes a serpent. The scorpion panics and takes flight as an eagle. The serpent shifts into a larger, faster eagle, and the two tear into each other mid-air. The aerial dogfight crashes back to earth. The genie shrinks down to hide inside a pomegranate, which swells and bursts, scattering its seeds across the courtyard. The princess shifts into a rooster and frantically pecks the seeds off the stone, hunting down the scattered pieces of her enemy. But in the chaos, she misses one. A single seed rolls off the bank and into a small canal, immediately becoming a fish. The rooster dives in after it as a pike. For 2 hours, they wage a violent, invisible war beneath the water's surface. They finally burst from the water in their true forms, breathing huge jets of fire. As the courtyard erupts in flames, a stray spark strikes you directly in the face, depriving you of the sight in one eye. But the princess unleashes a final, concentrated blast that incinerates the genie to ash. She whispers a final spell over a cup of water, dashes it in your face, and your ape body falls away. You are a man again, though permanently scarred. You try to thank her, but she stops you. By letting that single seed escape to the water, she was forced to use fire to finish the fight, and that magic is now consuming her from the inside out. She dies at her father's feet. The dervish's parable suggested that the worst human impulses can be answered with mercy, but the invocation of ancient magic operates on different rules. It is a zero-sum game that demands an irreversible sacrifice, one that leaves even the victors standing in ashes.